Hello everyone, welcome back. It's early June of 2024 and I thought we'd take a little walk through the pawpaw section of the orchard, or really the section of the orchard that has pawpaws, I should say. This is the sunflower pawpaw. You can see I've done some grafting. That's going to be another video. I've never tried grafting pawpaws before, so I just took some scions from our own trees and grafted them onto this for pollination mostly. Speaking of that, you can see this is a flower that, when the petals fall off, this is kind of what they look like, and then those will completely fall off, and hopefully a fruit will emerge. I'll show some little fruitlets. There's still some pollen on there. I did a lot of hand pollinating. That's what one of the things with pawpaws that makes a big difference is just to kind of take like a little paintbrush, like a watercolor kind of soft brush, and just sort of go flower to flower up inside the flower, get the pollen and take it to another tree. And so you're kind of playing bug in this case, because bees don't really pollinate pawpaws. It's more flies and beetles and things like that. So this is what fruitlets look like. You can see, here's one, and when this focuses a little bit better, there we go. You can see when they start to spread out like that, that's usually a good sign. That means there's a good chance those are going to actually turn into fruit. If they don't spread out, they'll end up, the fruitlet will just fall off the tree. And that usually means it wasn't correctly pollinated. But you're never really out of the woods until you get into like July, and you see the fruit are starting to plump up. But see, when they spread out like that, that's almost always a good sign that they're going to turn into fruit. It's not a guarantee, but it's a pretty good indication that that was properly pollinated. And that right there would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pawpaws on that one cluster. So they will fruit pretty heavily. What's really cool is we had this crazy freeze in April, kind of like last year, although this year the nice thing is the freeze happened in, April instead of mid-May, and so the pawpaws hadn't started flowering yet. Here's another sunflower pawpaw cluster. They'll typically be like 4 or 5, something like that. There we go. You can see that really nicely, but when it comes to the flowers, I noticed that I would say probably 75% of our flower buds never opened into flowers this year, which means that we got down to 22 degrees for 2 nights in the end of April, like April 27, 28, something like that. And I would say it killed probably 75% of the pawpaw buds. They weren't open. They looked like kind of small the small red pea stage, I guess you could say, about the size of a pea and red, like a small pea, like a pencil eraser actually is a better size approximation. So many of them survived, but most of them never opened, which I'm assuming means the freeze killed them. So that was sort of a bummer, because this NC1 pawpaw on the right there, as I'm walking into this little patch, had a lot of flower buds and none of them really opened. Like one opened and it fell off. Here's the Shenandoah. This is my favorite pawpaw. Makes great fruit. It's a really productive tree. It's a nice flavor. It ripens in, like, for us, like late October, right around like the 20th of October-ish most years. Very large, very good flavor. By far the most reliable. This one, just this and the sunflower, just pump out fruit and pump out flowers and don't seem to be that phased. And in a way, it's kind of good we had the freeze, because this would be loaded from top to bottom with flowers and probably too much fruit for this tree to handle. Sunflower will do the same thing. And then if you have too much fruit, the reason that's a big problem, other than snapping the branches, is sometimes the tree won't ripen it up nicely. That's something that you don't realize, but it's like the tree only has the capacity to ripen so much fruit, I think. And so you'll get the fruit, they'll look correct, but they just won't taste sweet. They won't ripen well if you have too many. So it's kind of nice not to have to thin, because that would be hard to do when you wait so long for the fruit. Here's NC1. Look at this big, huge tree. It's every bit of 8 feet tall. That was loaded from top to bottom with flower buds when we had that freeze. And like I said, they were probably like pencil eraser, dark red color. They hadn't turned green yet. When you think of a pawpaw flower stage, they start off, they get swollen and turn red, and then they turn green, and then they get into like a bell shape and open up. That was probably like a couple stages before the bell stage, but the freeze killed, I think, all of the flowers pretty much on that tree, but not on the tree right next to it, the Shenandoah. And so this is the Allegheny. It's getting about 6 feet tall now, really nice. But it goes to show how certain, just like with apples, certain varieties I think are just more hardy to cold in terms of their buds anyway. The tree themselves, obviously, fine. It'll just put more energy into next year, and hopefully next year the thing will be really loaded with buds, and they'll make it through all the stages of the spring. But it just, the same thing happens with apples, the same thing happens with peaches, where there are certain varieties that just are a degree or two hardier, and that can make all the difference. So sort of a learning experience. I don't do anything to try to protect the buds. It's just not plausible in my book. These are 8 to 10 foot tall trees. There's, what are you really going to do to truly protect them from frosts? This is a mango seedling that we got years ago, like 2018 I think it was, in a little 4-inch pot at a festival, and it was just this little stick in the dirt, and this thing has grown like crazy. Now it's a seedling, it's not a grafted tree. No buds still, no flower buds I mean, not yet. And so it's been, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is its 6th year in the ground. I did move it a couple of times early in its life, not when it was this big, but when it was little. So maybe that's part of it, but it's certainly happy there. This is a Tatu seedling, and we got on the exact same day. So this tree and the tree next to it that I just showed, you can kind of see it to the left-hand side here, were purchased on the exact same day at the exact same place, planted at the exact same time, and look at the difference between them. It can't be the soil conditions or anything because they're literally next to each other. So just genetics. But this tree took a long time. The Tatu, it kind of sat there, did nothing, and then boom, like this year it grew like 2 feet already. So that's what these things will do, these pawpaws. You plant them, don't get discouraged if at first it seems like they're not doing a lot, because they're getting their roots established, everything's happening underground, and then as soon as they're ready, they just go through a growth spurt. And when they get going, they grow really fast once they've established. But they're slow for those first bunch of years. And that's true for a lot of things, really, but especially for pawpaws. So just kind of a nice little tour through the pawpaw orchard. We're going to walk over and take a look at one I just moved, actually. I dug up a seedling that I planted a few years ago. I think it was Allegheny seeds. I'm not even sure anymore. I had it marked, but I forgot that they were even there. They were in that back garden with those other two the other two pawpaw trees, and I just had to move them because it was getting too crowded. So put them over here in the side orchard, kind of a more shady spot, but I think a really nice spot that they'll enjoy. So here is the little pawpaw seedling. It's become like a shrub at this point. But a shrub in the making. It's actually grown quite a bit this year since I put it here. I put it here early in the season. It's a good thing, I think, to transplant even pawpaws early in the season before they really get going. And so it hadn't leafed out yet when I put it here. And it's already, since I put it here, probably grown 6 inches. Really happy little plant. You can absolutely move pawpaws. Now, just like anything, the bigger the tree, the less success you're going to have and the more it's going to stress it. But the first few years, if you need to move them, I've done it quite a few times and it's totally doable. But I'm just happy to see this one here. I think it'll like its shady home over in the apple orchard inside of the house. So there's always room for another pawpaw tree. So thank you for watching. If you have questions about the pawpaws, I'd be happy to answer them in the comment section below. We put this with some ramps, some shade plants, some herbs, so I think it's a really nice addition. And I think there is something to the fact that having pawpaw trees near the apples seems to keep bugs away. I'm going to make a video on that again because I think that is definitely a thing.